Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be doing an analysis of the new Grand Cathay footage that CA just put out. So, as always, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton on the channel. Check out all of my offerings as well. We have dozens and dozens of different legendary campaigns for Total War Warhammer 2, and we're going to be doing tons and tons for Warhammer 3 as soon as it hits the shelves. I haven't done a lot of commentary on sort of the pre-development of Warhammer 3 yet, just because the numbers weren't quite there. It was just a lot of speculation. But this is something where we get to see a lot of the different kind of campaign mechanics that play with Cathay. And I thought it might be worth a short video just to kind of talk about what's going on, what I think so far about the development of Warhammer 3, and some stuff that I really like and some stuff that I hope they're going to add in there. So anyways, let's go ahead and get through this. So we're just going to watch some of it, but I am going to be stopping pretty regularly to comment on different things that I see and my thoughts on it. So if you want to watch the whole thing, uninterrupted, I'll have a link in the description. It's just basically just on Total War's main website. You just click and go find it. But anyways, let's see what we have here. And I might get a copyright strike for that. It won't be a strike, but I'll probably get demonetized for this. So be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy it. It's because anytime you show footage from anything, just about it gets demonetized. But anyways, here we go. It's worth it to give you guys the commentary, obviously.
Centuries, the great bastion has stood firm. Through sacrifice and stone-focused determination, the celestial dragon emperor and his children have staved off corruption time and time again. In the northern provinces, Miao Ying, the storm dragon, contends with the ever-looming
So we know, just for those of you that haven't been following too closely, this is in the very upper right of the map for the Total War Warhammer 3 map, and directly to the left over here are the Chaos Wastes. Those have not been revealed yet, or the Realms of Chaos, presumably beyond this stuff. So we don't know how you access those. It seems to be very special areas where you'd have to warp in there, or there might have to be some sort of event for you to go in there, but before you get to that, there is like this strip, this zone that's just outside of Cathay, which runs right along there, where there's lots of chaos invasions and things like that that come and try to go against this big wall. And then to the south are going to be Ogre Kingdoms. So just to kind of situate you geographically what this place is like. So it's almost like a mountain range / wall that encompasses this place that is Cathay. And there are lots of different Cathay factions in there, and there are some bad guy factions that make their way in there sometimes too. So it's not like it's completely safe, but it's presumably much safer inside the walls than outside the walls.
threat of invasion, and worse, traitors amongst her own subjects. The great bastion cannot abide a fractured defender, so our
Okay,
first
is this
task
a
is to
rebel?
consolidate Gunpowder Road.
They don't show you too much in terms of fighting here. They did clean up the UI a little bit, which is nice. It does give you a kill count here, which is kind of cool. I guess the base game does that too, but it makes some of the stuff just pop out a little bit more, which is cool. There is this yin and yang situation here. Whenever you have certain units with yin next to other units with yang, then you get extra bonuses. It looks like it's just leadership is what I'm seeing here. Which is nice. I don't know what their baseline leadership is, but it does give them extra combat effectiveness if you put units with the different alignments close to each other to balance your yin and yang. Then you do get that little
Quick flanking
bonus.
puts us at an immediate advantage and sandwiches the rebels between our cavalry and the bulk of our
So they don't show too much fighting here. It's just like really quick, couple of cinematic clips.
sky junk and superior ranged capabilities. The rebels are easily dispatched and
So something we can see here are, it gives you gold, and then it gives you this other thing here, which I don't remember what that is for Cathay, but presumably it's some kind of currency you can use to, unlock different benefits.
subsequently
So all of this is very similar to Warhammer 2.
The defense effort has need.
the only way through the bastion is
It's worth noting here, now I'm not sure why,
The defense effort has need.
that you can only recruit 2, which is unusual because typically if you are taxing the province, which presumably she is, 3 used to be the baseline. So if they've lowered it to 2, that means it'll take, a lot more turns to recruit armies. And I don't know if that's just a Cathay thing or if that's the new standard is 2. Because typically most places were 3, but if you didn't tax a province, then it would go down to 2. Okay. Just thought I'd point that out. Okay, so that gate was broken. So these look like the gates from... they added these in near Empire, and they also added them into the High Elf Ulthuan Island. These kind of gates that you can't, like, walk through those. You have to fight through them. However, it looks like it's similar to where you have a very limited amount of buildings you can build, so you can't build a lot of money buildings or recruitment buildings or other types of things that you can with traditional towns. It's basically just upgrading the defense. And it has a little icon there, presumably to mark it as a gate. So this looks somewhat similar. Now, this is a little interesting, and they don't explain exactly what this is, so I'll have to see. But you have a lot of the same kind of UI for, diplomacy with different people. However, there is this green 7 and green 8. So I'm not sure if that means it takes that away. Like, if this is so many points, so you're 20 green... So would it take 7 green? Like, is that a currency now where you can use 7 green to get a trade agreement or whatever? I know a lot of people have asked for something like that, just something that's quantifiable where you 100% know whether they will take it or not. Because one of the really annoying things is just trying to, just every turn, having to play guess and check. Okay, are they going to accept the alliance this turn? How about this turn? How about this turn? You know, or are they going to confederate is what a lot of people typically look for. This turn, this turn, this turn. And then sometimes you can have... 400 diplomacy with somebody and they still won't confederate with you, because some of that depends on how strong your armies are and how weak their armies are as well, and a lot of that is not spelled out or quantified in Warhammer 2. So I know that is a point of frustration, so maybe this is them trying to quantify it a little bit more, although that does take some of the mystery out of it. I think that would also take away some frustration, but we'll see. I really hope that they nerf Confederation a bit. Now, I'm not sure what this 4.4 means that I just noticed. Maybe that means it's going up 4.4 every turn currently, which would be nice to know that as well. They do some more diplomacy here in a minute also. But yeah, it looks like, so 20, so they're doing military access. So you still have the traditional trade agreements. You do have a caravan system that they go over in a second, specifically with Cathay. I know some people were hoping for a more nuanced trade agreement, and maybe there are some more nuances to it, but right now it just looks like you click a button and it's the same thing as, Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2. If you have contiguous properties leading up to their capital, you can do a trade agreement with them. Okay. Okay, so they accepted it, but it did not drop this number at all. So I'm not sure what the 10 means. Maybe that means the minimum to make it happen is 10 or something like that. But it looks like they're at least trying to quantify something. Now, that place was also only 2 hiring. That's a different province. So it looks like that might be the standard, at least for Cathay.
The Emperor's chosen daughter.
Which I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, it means that you want to preserve your troops more. Because sometimes it does get a little crazy with some of the factions being able to hire like 7 units per turn or something. It just doesn't even matter if you lose an army. You just build it back almost instantly. Especially, the AI on Legendary, but they should have bonuses. Now, one thing interesting here, when you're on the attack, I don't know if this means that you personally get 1,000 resources. I think it's the defender gets these resources. So I guess it shows you how many resources they have to defend their town. And they don't show you a lot of that in this video, but we will see some of it where you can spend those resources to build additional walls or other types of defenses during a siege. So I guess that lets you know kind of what you're getting into if you want to fight this settlement. If they have like 1 million, resources they can use to build up extra defenses, you might want to think twice about sieging them. So again, not entirely spelled out, but I like that they are trying to quantify it here so that you have more information so you can make better informed decisions, which is really what strategy games are all about. You don't really want ambiguity. I don't think in a lot of strategy games you don't want a lot of mystery. You want people to know what they're doing.
As we expand our settlements,
Okay, So this is yin and yang apparently up here, and so your buildings also control it. So presumably when you're in battles, if you have units that are aligned with yin next to units aligned with yang, like we saw, you get some kind of bonuses. I'm assuming it's leadership. You might get other stuff as well. But then also you have this bar on top, and there are certain buildings. You can see right here what it is. You have characters, buildings, events, and technologies that affect your yin and your yang, right? So if you're in perfect harmony, this is what you could have. So you could have up to 40 diplomacy with all Cathay factions, minus 20% building construction, growth, 25% income from yin and yang buildings, plus 8 control, which is massive. That's public order. So especially for those of you that like to play on legendary, you really, really want that. Like 8 public order everywhere is just game changing. You really, really want that, because that's one of the toughest resources to try to balance for a lot of factions. So having that control is big. And then minus 5 corruption is also really big, because it seems like corruption is a big deal for a lot of the Chaos factions and some of their mechanics and how that's going to work. So they don't detail that too much in this video. And you also get an army ability, Ancestral Warriors. But presumably this is all really good, so you want to try to have these in alignment. Now, right now, he's over-aligned towards yin, so he's only getting partial bonuses. He's getting less money from yin buildings. He's not getting a lot of the stuff. He is getting some growth and some diplomacy, but he's missing out on the control, the corruption, all that other stuff.
Need to pay close attention to our harmony. We'll build a labor conscription bureau.
I mean, those bonuses are so big, I would just, like, consider destroying some buildings. If you're not in alignment and you don't have a good way to build more immediately, I would almost just destroy a building or two to get into alignment. Like, that's how important those are. So I don't know, that's creating an interesting tension to where it might actually be beneficial to I mean, it's a min-max, I suppose, right? That you might really need a yin building, but you might also really need, or a yang building or whatever, yang building, but you might also want to keep the bonus. So it depends on how well those are balanced, right? If it's really overloaded, if yin has all of the powerful units and all of the powerful buildings, and then, you know, yang has just garbage, that's going to feel bad. So if they balanced it really well, that could be cool. But it's interesting. I like it. It's a little creative tension there. I think it's possibly a good idea if it has, you know, useful trade-offs. Okay, so he's trying to balance.
Return to order, and more potential rivals discovered in the west. We'll turn our focus to Snakegate and fortifying the bastion. We'll begin by issuing the Storm Dragon's Edict commandment, lowering corruption, bolstering.
Okay, so still commandments. It's got 5 choices.
Whilst we were distracted with internal affairs, a Chaos warband entered Grand Cathay through the demolished.
Okay, so Chaos just walked through the gates. Now, this looks like Chaos Undivided, too. I know that's been a question. Okay, so now he's clicking on the Ivory Road. So what this is I think it seems like they don't really resolve what happens here, as far as I can tell. But it looks like this is basically just an event. I know that we saw lots of units in previous videos just sort of walking along roads randomly, and I thought it'd be cool if, you know, those units could actually literally be attacked. Like every turn, they just kind of stop in a certain area, and they were almost like mercenary type of armies that you could attack and get extra gold. Like other players could attack it and get the gold. So that would be pretty cool if you have to send an army with the trade caravan. Obviously, it would have to be a dramatically reduced cost on the army, or it would just not be worth it, you know, to send a 5,000 gold army to protect a 1,000 gold caravan. But I thought that would be cool, that it would take X amount of turns to get so far on the map, and that people could interact with the trade routes that way. I was hoping it'd be that way for all trade routes. But it looks like, from what I see, it's just an event. So basically, you tell it to go there, and there's a certain probability that events could happen to it.
Maintain our growing army.
So you can choose a place that you want to send it to. Presumably, the further away the place is, the more gold it's going to be worth. So this looks like it's sending it through like the Mountains of Morn. So this is where you start off. Up here in the upper right is Cathay. This is all the Chaos stuff, Chaos Realms. This is what you're trying to defend, these steps. And then this is Ogre territory. This is basically going to be Chaos Dwarf territory. Maybe some Dark Elves, Skaven, Greenskin, stuff like that. Like huge desert down here. And this is where you get over into kind of the old world types of territory. So you can choose how long it goes there. I'm not sure the exact mechanics. It might be the further it is, the more likely it is that you're going to run into problems. Maybe it increases the probability.
Making use of the Ivory Road.
But you can choose how much the cargo value is and the cost. Now, I don't know why it tells you two different numbers for this, because it looked like it matched every time he clicked. It looks like 1,000 is the maximum. Let me see if the army changed at all. So if he got a bigger army, no, it's 9. No, 9 every time. So these are reserve caravans, so you might have to build these out before you can go send them. You might have to build them somewhere, or maybe they replenish over time. I'm not sure. You can kind of see what the army is that can defend the caravan. So right now, you just click how much gold do you want to basically gamble that you're going to be able to get this thing through.
Caravans to trade with distant cultures. Caravans come with plenty of risk, but the potential rewards are more than worth it.
So that was the cargo was worth 1,000. The cost was 1,000. And it looked like the place that he clicked, it looked like the reward was going to be like 3,000 something. 3480. So they kind of forget to follow up on that, I think. There's a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit. Okay, so these are the Chaos Undivided. So that might still be a faction that you could run into or that you can still play, presumably. I don't know if they're going to do any updates to them. At least not at the start. I would imagine probably not, but it's still out there, you know, with the Marauders and everybody's favorite little skirmishing horses. Really obnoxious versus certain factions. Okay. Colonize still takes a lot of, costs a lot of units out of your army, which is annoying. Now we can see here what you get if you upgrade this all the ways. This looks like the standard gates as well, where it's just basically like a huge garrison. You do get quite a bit of supplies. It looks like it does give you some gold per turn, so that's cool that it does give you a reason to try to hold these properties other than just for protection, that you can get some money. And at tier 1, it does have the walls. Okay, and then you also get minus attrition, so it's going to take them longer to attrition out your town, which just almost never comes up. Okay. Okay, so this wasn't explained like super well, but presumably the resources that you get, maybe this is what the those supplies at the end of battles when you win, you can spend them on this. And it's, you know, we don't have real numbers here because it says +0, +0, +0, like, so we don't know what this is going to be. But presumably, these are just kind of like the rights where you get a certain bonus for a limited amount of time. And it sounds like part of it is guaranteed for the entire duration. And then part of it is only active when you set the direction. So I believe when you set the direction, you get it for like 8 turns or something like that. And then someone else can flip it towards a different direction. And I think you can have multiple of these active at the same time. But it costs you those resources. Some special resources, I believe. Yeah, 8 turns. It's like says right there, you'll be able to change it every 9 turns or so. I mean, I can... There you go. So left click the compass direction. After changing the direction, the compass will be locked in place for 8 turns, during which time it cannot be changed by any faction. Your faction will be able to change the compass again in 9 turns. So other Cathay factions presumably could change it during that 1 turn layover if they want to, but if they don't, then you can change it.
Suffered from recent conflicts. We'll turn the compass northwest to hasten.
Now that can be a little goofy if there are a lot of Cathay factions, and depending on if they start in the rotation faster than you, So if they get to change the compass if they want to first, that might actually stop you from being able to change the compass. Because presumably they get it for 8 turns too, if they turn it on. So if they're just constantly like taking turns turning it on before you, then you wouldn't get to control it. So that mechanic, I'm not sure about that one. But
Their recovery. We'll also set the
it's interesting.
Bastion's commandment to the
Okay.
Bastion restored for
Get extra commandments for the gates.
term.
Hey, thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. Okay, so you get an encounter with the caravan. So they don't actually literally attack you on the road like real time, make that decision. It's just, again, I think you have a probability, probably depending on how far you're going, of running into these events. So it looks like you could just sacrifice one peasant long spearman, and that would give you some extra diplomacy with Sons of the Mountains. So basically, you just throw them over there so they can eat them, which is, you know, kind of bad RP, right? Like throwing your own troops to get eaten by the enemy, or you can just fight them if you want to fight them.
As our caravan is ambushed and held under
It might be worth doing something like that if you really want the diplomacy. Although diplomacy with ogres is, I imagine, pretty hard with Cathay, but
In harmony, and we shall prevail.
I mean, all they had was a bunch of snotlings. They had a couple of ogres, but it looked like you could definitely beat them in battle. Now, if you beat them, you know, you get extra gold.
to cut the assaulting lord off from the bulk,
The experience doesn't matter as much because,
and we soon have the upper hand.
you know, it's just a caravan. Well, I don't know. Maybe you do get to, if your same caravan survives over and over again, maybe that lord does level up. Let me say, it didn't look like... Looks like you get gold, but he doesn't have like an XP bar or anything. I'm not even sure if that's a lord. That might be a hero. But yeah, his bar is like not moving at all after winning this. So I guess you don't level him up. So all you're really doing the purpose obviously is to protect the caravan. You get a little bit of gold. You get whatever this resource is. And you know, just for RP, you're not feeding your own dude to them.
There remains an insidious enemy within the bastion, one we weren't confident enough to confront until now. The foul architect of fate holds the terracotta graveyard, and whilst this threat remains, the bastion is still weakened. We'll entrust Snakegate's defense to
Okay, so yeah, there are some chaos hanging out in your property.
the demon threat.
Again, I don't know if this is some of your supplies you can use to fight, but I think only the defender gets supplies. Yeah, because there's a different thing for siege equipment. So you don't like build your siege equipment on the spot or something like that with supplies, I don't think. Because yeah, this isn't even a walled settlement. So they get supplies, I guess, even if it's not walled, which is kind of interesting. Looks like a pretty, well... I don't know. These are kind of the fodder units, I think. I believe those are Forsaken, which are pretty good. It's a pretty bold attack. I mean, that's, what, like 30-something units, probably? Versus 20?
Master of Tempest.
But, I mean, she's like the, you know, marquee legendary lord. It looks like they have some good choke points, too.
Settlement's bridge is where the majority of the fighting is to be had. We thwart attempts.
Well, I'll look at I'm trying to, like, look at the stats of the units later. Now, I don't know what that sleep is, if that's a debuff or what. That is interesting. If that's... I don't know how that would work. I mean, does that mean that... Surely they're not incapacitated. Now, this is a reinforcing lord as well. I didn't see a reinforcing lord on the map. Maybe this is the town. So they were outside of a town, and you're reinforcing that town to help them out. I thought that the Chaos controlled the town the first time I watched this, but it looks like that's a reinforcing lord. That's curious. Why do they have the Winds of Magic on top of them like that? This is interesting. Does each lord have their own winds of magic or something? Because it looks like you have 72 total that you could cast over here. So yeah, I don't know if these are like sleep-deprived units. So maybe they just haven't rested in a while, and I don't know if that means you have to be in a town every so often. And they're going to get debuffs because of that. Who are they? Okay, so they're clicking on a peasant horseman who does not have the sleep yet. Surely their entire army is not incapacitated and asleep right now. Now there are, it looks like, these different red checkpoints where they could use supplies, presumably.
We thwart attempts to flank us and soon overpower the demons with superior melee power.
Peasant archers. Which one of these is... I can't tell which one is selected. Oh, probably one of these. Those are both asleep, though. So, I don't think it's incapacitated. Yeah, okay, so that just went to sleep. Now they're not asleep.
The forces of chaos fight to the last.
Now they're all asleep. So I think that's just some kind of debuff maybe that Zinch puts on people. Or maybe they cast a spell or something before the attack that does that.
Storm Dragon. To maintain the security.
Because it was kind of bouncing around.
We'll need
Okay, now this is something that does get a bit more interesting. So these are some more diplomacy options. Again, right here, I'm not quite sure what these points mean. Minus 18, that looks like Confederation. Military Alliance is minus 7, minus 2. And maybe that just means they're not going to do it. Okay, maybe that's what it would cost you on the scale or something. Maybe green means that they'll do it no matter what. And then, like, that would cost you 18 diplomacy in terms of balance. You would have to give them something that's worth 18 to them. So maybe if you give them 5,000 gold, that's worth 2. You know, maybe if you give them, you know, a property, and we'll talk about that. Well, you'll see that in a second, but maybe if you give them, you know, a town or something, that would count as 10, right? So maybe that's how it works, is that's what it would cost on the scale to get them to do something.
a strong relationship with the Imperial.
Okay, so here you can trade settlements, which is interesting. So you can put a settlement on the board. Now it says here, you can only trade a settlement where they already have a region or they have a province that's close by. So in other words, you can't just try to trade them a town that's in the middle of nowhere on the other side of the map that you just took over in order to get value out of it. Because that could be like pretty good, but pretty exploitative too, right? If you're, you know, you just spotted someone on the other side of the map, you open diplomacy with them, and then you just start taking over these towns that are impossible to hold, that are just like terrible locations. Maybe they're chaotic or just something else where it's like a red geography where there's no way you can hold it. In theory, you could take it and then hand it off or sell it to someone on the other side of the world. And the AI might have a difficult time deciding if that's a good idea or not. So they're putting in these constraints to make it a little less ridiculous and exploitative, which is good. Because then, in theory, you could just keep, like, taking towns, selling it. They lose the town, it gets burned or whatever. You take it back, sell it back to them. Just to stop the cheese, which I'm a huge fan of. I just really don't like a lot of cheese stuff.
Wardens, so we broker a deal.
Okay. So they're giving this settlement, and now it looks like it's plus 15 on the military alliance and 20 for a defensive alliance, presumably.
Exchange for the newly liberated.
So I think he could ask for more there, because he's plus 15, so it seems like he could have asked for more gold or something, if I'm understanding this correctly.
Graveyard,
But
we demand a military alliance.
either way, you're giving away a town in order to get a military alliance.
See us take command of the.
And now with the military alliance, you have better coordination. So you can set a target where you want to fight, which is standard. You can do that in Warhammer 2. And then presumably, now it looks like there's some kind of points, allegiance. I don't know what that means. Maybe if you do more stuff together, if you have more cooperative fights or something, maybe that goes up. And maybe as your allegiance goes up, it unlocks more things. So you have ally missions, which is kind of cool. you can both kind of go together and do stuff. I don't know if those are like quest battle type of things or just stuff you're supposed to accomplish on the map, but that is pretty fun, it looks like.
The entire bastion.
Or construct or upgrade an outpost to recruit some of your allies' units. Oh, you can recruit ally units. Is that what this is saying? Huh. I wonder if that's just within the same faction. Because that'd be pretty crazy if you could be like Empire or something and ally with dwarves and then like recruit dwarf units into your army and fight with dwarf units. That'd be really sweet. I don't know if they're going to do that or not. Obviously, they would have to put some constraints on that. Like, it would have to cost a ton of gold, or maybe they have reduced leadership, or something of that nature if it's like a dwarf fighting in a human army. But I think that would open up, like, diversity a lot, and it would really encourage you to have good diplomacy with certain people, and that would add extra incentives. Because right now, getting a military alliance, there's really almost no purpose in Warhammer 2 to doing that unless you plan on confederating with them. Sometimes they will help you out. Sometimes, you know, it might dissuade people from going to war with you if you're allied with another strong entity. But for the most part, it's not worth it because you could get dragged into a war that you don't want to get dragged into. And one of the worst things that can happen is if you're military allied with two different factions, but they're not allied with each other, and they go to war with each other, you have to choose a side. And whichever side you choose counts as you breaking the contract of the other one. So it just, like, destroys your diplomacy, and then everyone starts declaring war on you, and it's really bad. So it's disadvantageous in Warhammer 2 to get a military alliance in a lot of scenarios, unless you're going to confederate. So I like that this is adding extra incentives for you to, take on that risk. So I don't know if I'm reading this correctly because it says to recruit some of your allies' units. Now, it might only give you a small selection. So if you get, like, if it does allow you to do that with something like dwarfs, the Empire Dwarfs example, maybe it would not allow you to get, you know, Iron Breakers, right? Or like some tier 4, tier 5 unit. But maybe you could get, you know, some Dwarf Warriors, right? Or, you know, just some lower level stuff. I think that would be really fun, and that would make sense. I mean, a lot of times when you have these different allied, you know, conflicts and stuff like that, these races are working together, and, you know, they're probably, you'll have people from different races and factions serving under, you know, generals from other factions. So I think that's really cool. If that's how that works. Again, not confirmed. I'm just speculating. But that's what it seems to look like right there to me. Now, you can construct this. It looks like you're building this for them. Right? So it looks like you're paying 3,000 gold, 3 turns, and then making this outpost at a specific allied settlement.
But for now, we'll lend our aid to Turtlegate with the...
Okay, so they're lending their aid to now this one has more recruitable units. Now again, this is a little different because this is the same faction. So it might only allow you to do this for the same faction. So Cathay can only build Cathay units. Empire, maybe you could military alliance with Balthasar Gelt or something if you're Karl Franz. And then if you're on Balthasar's property, maybe you could recruit, you know, some units from his buildings. So it might only let you do it for the same faction, if that's how I'm reading it. But even that is pretty cool. And that makes sense too. Then that way you don't have to keep building. If you make military alliances, you don't have to keep building up this military infrastructure, you know, around the map. You can just build, or you can just recruit from your allies' places. Again, I think that should be balanced by it should cost extra, right? Almost like global recruitment type of cost. In order to do that, because that is a major convenience, and you're not risking building the infrastructure. Because it is risky to build that out, right? You have to protect the area. If it gets sacked, you lose a ton of gold and time. And so you are getting a major convenience by doing that. Although, if it is harder to get to military alliance with a lot of people and harder to keep it, then, you know, maybe that's fair. But either way, I really like the idea as long as it's balanced well.
An outpost to bolster the gate's defenses. Some
So we're building that for them there, I think. So does that mean that so we can build their buildings in their towns? Because this is they own this.
Turtlegate with the construction of an outpost to bolster the gate's defense.
So we can build stuff in their town, or is it just gates? That'd be interesting. I mean, that'd probably be kind of overpowered if you could build stuff in their towns. Like, basically, it'd be your towns for the most part, right? Like, you wouldn't be getting the money out off of them, but you could build recruitment buildings and then use it as your property. And I wonder if they can... Surely they can't do that to your towns. Like, force you to build military buildings where in a town where you want to build utility buildings. So, like gold and stuff like that, public order. So that's interesting. We'll have to see how that goes. Maybe they have to okay it. Maybe you suggest it and they have to okay it. I don't know.
We'll continue to monitor the situation and build our defenses in preparation.
I will not.
So we have global still. Global is 3, but local is still only 2.
An army of Slanesh's demons summoned by decadent cultists. Their settlement is besieged, so we...
Okay, so the cultists, we don't know exactly how that works yet, but we know they can summon chaos stuff. I think it's like a Skaven undercity or whatever, where you establish it in a town. You can build like little buildings, and then over time, you know, it can spawn a cult, or they can get money from it or stuff like that. That's how I read into it reading the chaos stuff. That it's like Skaven-esque.
We commit ourselves to our allies' defense.
Okay. Fighting some Slanesh.
More ranged capabilities and no opportunity to flank. Slanesh's demons are forced to attempt a full frontal assault to a disastrous outcome. Slanesh's forces are a trifling thing this time, and they're easily dealt with. But whilst we were distracted, a siege host amassed outside of Snakegate. The Changer of Ways is making his move. The journey across Cathay is long, but we arrive in time to face the demons. Kairos Fateweaver marches on Snake
Okay.
Gate in
I meant to look to see if which ally that was that we helped, and to see if that moved the needle on that thing that was like, I forgot what it was, but some number that was 0 allegiance.
Bastion and laying waste to Cathay
I'm
beyond.
digging this. I'm liking a lot of this.
The ruinous powers knock upon
Looks like you get a speech too.
but these guests are not welcome.
I don't know if this happens like every battle. Hopefully it's skippable if it does. They give speeches for like quest battles in Warhammer 2, but okay, so it gives you the stats on the tower, which is pretty cool here. I don't know if you can upgrade those or not. I mean, obviously when you upgrade the towns, it'll upgrade them, but I don't know if like you can use your supplies.
Focusing our ranged units on the wall.
Okay. So it looks like you can build certain things here. It's like just different versions of barricades, some that are stronger than others and cost a little bit more. I would just have to practice and learn kind of what these are, but those look like they're all barricades. And so there are pre-prepared spots where you can pay resources to build extra stuff, which is kind of cool. This reminds me of Attila. I didn't play a lot of the historical games, but the first one that I played was Attila. And I really liked that you did have, like, you know, barricades and stuff like that that you could put up in the town. And it opened up different strategic kind of defensive options. So I like that. So it looks like here, you know, you can put extra walls and stuff up. And then in these places, you could put extra towers. Obviously, the towers seem like they're a really big deal. I mean, I guess if you have a lot of ranged units, and if you have, like, really good choke points, and the barriers might be good, too. Remember in Attila, you know, having some strong archers and just playing around those barriers, just having some spears and then barriers to defend those archers was really strong. Especially if they can't attack the towers directly, which a lot of times it's hard to do unless they have siege equipment, especially inside the town. then that could be really good with towers. Okay, so this is barricade platform. This barricade will block the path of attackers. It can be docked and allows defending infantry to climb over it. Okay. So you get 22% extra range. Oh, if you have infantry standing on it, they get 22% or 20% extra range. That's kind of cool.
Our hope is to end the battle at the end.
I didn't see what that one was.
But we're ready to fight in the streets if we must.
Towns obviously look awesome.
Crossbowman! Warrior crossbow!
Chi spells bombard our defenders relentlessly, extracting a terrible toll. But despite Kairos Fateweaver's magic,
What was that?
relentlessly extracting a terrible toll. But
Okay, this is just, bombs you can use with the flying unit. Alright.
despite Kairos Fateweaver's magical prowess, he cannot stand against the might of the Storm Dragon.
Oh, Cathay! Defenders of Cathay!
So it looks like they didn't really get too far in the town.
Invasion is repelled. The Great Bastion still stands, and the northern province's continued survival is ensured. For now. But where we set our eyes northward, we failed to monitor the situation to the west. Whilst our back was turned, invaders from the Mountains of Morn annihilated.
Isn't that to the east?
Lords of Jin Shin.
I don't know. Obviously that's
Taste of
on the other side.
sour as Miao Ying realizes bitterly that her campaign to protect Cathay has only just begun.
Okay, so that's it. So hopefully that gives you some idea. So I really like, kind of what I'm seeing here, especially with the diplomacy stuff, especially with the allied things. If you can recruit your allies' units, that would be awesome. Especially, please, CA, just name your price. Like, just allow me to recruit other factions' units, at least a small amount. That would add so much diversity and fun if you can get a military alliance with them. Like I said, just being the Empire and being able to get some dwarfs in there, like, just balance it, limit it, right? Like, just say, okay, they cost a lot of money, they cost extra upkeep, or they cost, they have weaker leadership, or you can only have so many. Maybe you can only do it like 2 or 3 per army. Maybe you have to have a certain kind of technology to do it. Maybe your legendary lord has to be a certain rank to do it. I don't know, whatever the stipulations are. Just make it happen. Maybe it's only for a limited amount of turns. I think the easiest way to do it would just be they're just they just cost a lot, right? Kind of like Regiments of Renown. Maybe you could only do it so often or something. But I just think that would do so much to add extra diversity. I really don't think it would be that OP, especially if, it's just lower level units that can do that. But I think that would be fun just to have that extra, little bit of diversity there. And then maybe you could face enemy armies that do that as well. I know they've had those mercenary armies in the game for quite a while. Did they release those with... I think it was just Warhammer 2 in general, right? They had those, like, roaming mercenary armies that really don't do anything most of the time. Like the stuff that floats around on the sea and these other things. Like, it's a really cool idea, these rogue armies. Like, I could face something that's an army of night elves and dwarves and... not night elves, wood elves and dwarves and all this kind of stuff. So, I think that sounds kind of fun. She was in there a little bit ago.
Sun is setting.
Okay, we can roll out. But I think that would be fun to be able to build your own, kind of army like that. But either way, I think it looks good. Lots of upgrades. I don't see anything that looks negative or detrimental. Like I said, the yin and the yang thing, if the buildings are well balanced, I think that can create some interesting choices. The caravan thing, it's basically you're going on an encounter, you're going to have to fight something or do a special thing, and then you get some extra gold. Like, that's kind of cool. I do wish, like I said, that it would put stuff on the road that you could actually interact with for the trade agreements, but that's a lot of extra mechanics and art assets and just stuff in the game. Maybe it will be like that, I don't know. But, aside from just wishful thinking for really cool stuff that would be cool to add in there, what I'm seeing right now in the game, it's great. It's nothing but improvements on the base game, which was already phenomenal. So I really like it. So Let me know what you think of this video. I'm going to do some more reviews as soon as I do some more gameplay. Now that we're getting into more detailed numbers, I can start giving you guys useful reviews of stuff. I am going to get access to this game at some point. Now, I can't say when I'm going to get that. I have a decent idea when I'm going to get it, but I'm not supposed to say because of embargoes and things of that nature. I will say that the megastar, or mega content creators, I should say, that I don't like 100,000 plus subs, that type of stuff, they are going to get it a bit earlier. So if you see them running campaigns and you're wondering why am I not doing that yet, it's probably because I can't. And I can't talk about when I will be able to do it, but I can tell you I will get access to it a little bit early, and I will give you that content as soon as I can. There are also additional embargoes whenever I create my own content that I will have. I don't know all the stipulations on that, but in terms of how I can review it, how I can talk about it, how many turns I can show, all that kind of stuff might be limited as well. But I will be giving you the content as soon as I can, and I'll be commenting on any other official CA content that comes out from here on out, just to give you guys sort of a preview of what I think about what's going on. But anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.